What happens when an entitled duchess meets America's sweetheart on live television? Well, buckle up because what you're about to hear will leave you absolutely speechless. This is the story of how Meghan Markle managed to get herself thrown off the Drew Barrymore Show in what can only be described as one of the most explosive celebrity meltdowns ever caught on camera. The producers tried to bury this footage, but the truth always finds a way out. Make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below because this story has more twists than a soap opera. It was supposed to be a routine promotional appearance. Meghan had a new lifestyle brand to push, and Drew's show was the perfect platform for the kind of warm, fuzzy interview that usually makes everyone feel good. The studio audience was packed with fans, the lighting was perfect, and Drew Barrymore was doing what she does best, being genuinely enthusiastic about her guest. "I am so excited to have you here today," Drew beamed as she settled into her chair. Across from Meghan. "I mean, your journey from actress to duchess to entrepreneur, it's just incredible." Meghan smiled that practiced smile she'd perfected over years of red carpets and royal events. "Thank you so much for having me, Drew. I've always admired your authenticity." The word authenticity seemed to hang in the air for just a moment too long. Drew, ever the professional, pushed forward with her prepared questions about Meghan's latest business venture. But there was something in Meghan's tone that felt calculated, rehearsed. "So tell us about your new brand," Drew continued, her voice maintaining that signature warmth. "What inspired you to launch this particular line of products?" Meghan launched into what was clearly a well-rehearsed pitch about empowerment and sustainability, but her delivery felt cold, almost corporate. The studio audience, who had been buzzing with excitement just moments before, seemed to sense the shift in energy. "That's wonderful," Drew interrupted gently when Meghan paused for breath. "But I have to ask, and I hope you don't mind, our viewers are really curious about your life now. How are you finding your new chapter outside of royal duties?" The question was innocent enough, the kind of softball inquiry that any good publicist would have prepared their client for. But something flickered across Meghan's face, a flash of irritation that she didn't quite manage to hide. "Well, Drew," Meghan said, her smile becoming noticeably tighter, "I think it's important that we focus on the positive work I'm doing now rather than dwelling on the past." "Of course, absolutely," Drew replied, clearly sensing the tension but trying to navigate around it. "I just think our audience connects with personal stories, you know? The struggles, the growth, all of that." "I understand what you're trying to do," Meghan said, and now there was definitely an edge to her voice. "But I came here to talk about my brand, not to be psychoanalyzed on daytime television." The studio fell silent. This wasn't the warm, fuzzy chat anyone had expected. Drew's eyes widened slightly, but she recovered quickly, the way only a seasoned talk show host can. "I'm sorry if it came across that way," Drew said sincerely. "That wasn't my intention at all. I love hearing about people's journeys, especially when they've overcome challenges." "Overcome challenges," Meghan repeated, her voice rising just enough to make the audience shift uncomfortably in their seats. "I think you have the wrong idea about my story, Drew." The producers in the control room were probably having heart attacks at this point. This was live television, and their usually composed guest was starting to unravel right in front of America. "I don't think I do," Drew said carefully. "I mean, leaving royal life couldn't have been easy, starting over in a new country with your family." "Starting over?" Meghan's laugh was sharp, humorless. "Drew, I think you've been reading too many tabloids. My life isn't some sob story for your audience to feel sorry about." The tension in the studio was now so thick you could cut it with a knife. Drew's natural empathy was clashing head-on with Meghan's defensive wall, and neither woman seemed willing to back down. "I never said it was a sob story," Drew replied, her voice still gentle but with a hint of steel underneath. "I was actually trying to celebrate your strength." "My strength?" Meghan scoffed. "You want to talk about strength? Let's talk about the strength it takes to sit here while you try to turn my appearance into some kind of trauma bonding session." The audience was completely silent now, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Drew looked genuinely hurt by the accusation, her famous emotiveness making it impossible for her to hide her feelings. "Meghan, I think there's been a misunderstanding," Drew said, her voice wavering slightly. "I would never try to exploit anyone's personal struggles. That's not who I am." "Isn't it, though?" Meghan shot back. Isn't that exactly what daytime television is? Getting people to open up about their pain so your viewers can feel better about their own lives. The words hung in the air like a slap. Drew Barrymore, beloved by millions for her genuine warmth and vulnerability, had just been accused of being exploitative on her own show. The hurt on her face was unmistakable. "I think," Drew said quietly, "we should take a commercial break." But Meghan wasn't done. "No, let's not take a break. Let's address this right now. You invited me here under the pretense of promoting my work, but all you want to do is dig into my personal life like I'm some kind of curiosity." The control room was in chaos. The director was frantically signaling to cut to commercial, but the cameras kept rolling. This was television gold, even if it was a complete disaster. "That's not true," Drew said, her voice stronger now. "I ask personal questions because I believe in human connection. I share my own struggles because I think it helps people feel less alone." "How noble of you," Meghan said sarcastically. "St. Drew, helping all the lonely people by getting celebrities to cry on television." The cruelty in her voice was shocking. This wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. This was Meghan attacking everything Drew stood for, everything her show represented. Drew took a deep breath, and when she spoke again, her voice was steady but cold. "I think you should leave." The words hit the studio like a thunderbolt. Drew Barrymore, the woman who had built her career on kindness and vulnerability, had just told a guest to leave her own show. But Meghan wasn't going anywhere. "Excuse me," Meghan said, her voice dripping with indignation. "You're kicking me off your show because I won't play along with your little therapy session?" Drew stood up from her chair, her hands trembling slightly. "I'm asking you to leave because you're being cruel and disrespectful, not just to me, but to what this show represents." "What this show represents?" Meghan laughed bitterly, also rising to her feet. "This show represents exactly what's wrong with American media. You parade people's pain for entertainment and call it healing." The audience was frozen, unsure whether to applaud, boo, or just sit in stunned silence. Some were filming with their phones, despite the no recording policy. This was going to be all over social media within minutes. "That's enough," Drew said firmly. "Security, please escort Ms. Markle from the building." But before security could move, Meghan held up her hand. "Don't you dare treat me like some common troublemaker. Do you have any idea who you're talking to?" "Yes," Drew replied quietly. "I'm talking to someone who came on my show and chose to be nasty instead of kind. And that's all I need to know about who you are." The simplicity of the statement seemed to infuriate Meghan even more. "Nasty? I'm telling you the truth about your exploitative format, and you call me nasty. You attacked me personally," Drew shot back, her voice rising for the first time. "You question my integrity and my motives when all I did was try to have a conversation with you." "A conversation?" Meghan scoffed. "You wanted me to break down and cry about my struggles so your audience could feel superior. That's not conversation. That's manipulation." Drew's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. "I have never, ever tried to make anyone feel bad on this show. I share my own pain because I want people to know they're not alone in theirs." "How convenient," Meghan sneered. "The host who cries gets to make millions while pretending to care about other people's problems." The cruelty of the comment sent a gasp through the studio audience. Several people actually stood up, ready to leave. This had gone from uncomfortable to genuinely ugly. "Get out," Drew said, her voice barely above a whisper but carrying more authority than if she had shouted. "Get out of my studio right now." "I'm not going anywhere until I've said what I came here to say," Meghan declared, turning to address the cameras directly. "America needs to understand what kind of person you really are, Drew Barrymore." The cameramen looked frantically between their director and the two women on stage. Nobody knew whether to keep filming or cut the feed. "What kind of person am I?" Drew asked, wiping her eyes. "Please, enlighten us all." "You're a fraud," Meghan said coldly. "You built your career on being damaged and vulnerable, and now you make money by getting other people to be damaged and vulnerable on television." "That's not true," Drew replied, her voice breaking slightly. "I share my story because I want people to know that pain doesn't have to define you, that you can heal and grow and still be happy." "Spare me the inspirational speech," Meghan waved, her hand dismissively. "You're no different from any other talk show host who feeds off other people's misery." The audience had heard enough. Someone in the back started booing, and soon others joined in. Meghan turned to face them, her expression one of complete disdain. "Oh, please," she addressed the crowd. "You're booing me for telling the truth? This is exactly the kind of mob mentality that drives everything wrong with this country. Leave the audience out of this," Drew said sharply. "They didn't do anything to you. They're part of the problem," Meghan shot back. "Sitting there consuming other people's pain like entertainment. It's sick. You know what's sick?" Drew's voice was stronger now, fueled by genuine anger. Coming on someone's show as their guest, and then attacking them and their audience for no reason. No reason. Meghan turned back to Drew, her eyes blazing. "You ambushed me with personal questions when I specifically came here to promote my business. I asked you how you were doing in your new life," Drew said incredulously. "That's hardly an ambush. It's a setup," Meghan insisted. "You knew exactly what you were doing. Get me talking about the royal family, about leaving England, about all the drama. Well, I'm not playing that game." "Then why did you come on the show at all?" Drew asked, genuine confusion in her voice. "If you hate what I do so much, why agree to be here?" Meghan paused for just a moment, as if she hadn't expected that question. "Because I thought you might be different. I thought maybe you'd actually want to talk about the work I'm doing, the positive impact I'm trying to make." "I didn't want to talk about that," Drew said desperately. "I asked you about your brand. I was interested in your work. But when I tried to connect it to your personal journey, you attacked me." "Personal journey," Meghan repeated mockingly. "There's that therapy speak again. Can't you just have a normal conversation without trying to psychoanalyze everyone?" "I wasn't psychoanalyzing you," Drew protested. "I was trying to understand you as a person, not just as a brand representative." "Maybe I don't want to be understood by you," Meghan said coldly. "Maybe I just want to be respected enough to talk about my work without having to bare my soul for your entertainment." Drew stared at her for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. "Respect is earned, Meghan, and right now, you're not earning it." The studio fell completely silent. Even the crew seemed to have stopped moving. This was the moment when everyone realized that Drew Barrymore, the eternal optimist who saw the best in everyone, had finally reached her limit. That Meghan's face flushed red. "How dare you lecture me about respect when you've been disrespecting me since I walked out here?" "I welcomed you warmly," Drew said, her voice gaining strength. "I introduced you with genuine enthusiasm. I asked you thoughtful questions about your work and your life. And you repaid that by insulting me, my show, and my audience." "Thoughtful questions?" Meghan laughed harshly. "You wanted me to trauma dump on national television, and you call that thoughtful?" "I wanted you to be human," Drew said simply. "But apparently, that's too much to ask." The accusation hung in the air like poison. Drew's face went completely pale, and for a moment, she looked like she might actually cry. But instead, something shifted in her expression. The hurt was still there, but now it was mixed with something else, something harder. "Too much to ask," Drew repeated slowly. "You know what, Meghan? You're right. Apparently asking you to be a decent human being is too much to ask." The audience erupted in applause, but Meghan wasn't finished. "Decent human being? You're calling me indecent because I won't participate in your emotional manipulation. I'm calling you indecent because you came into my house and attacked me for trying to be kind to you." Drew shot back, her voice stronger than anyone had heard it all day. "You turned a simple interview into a battlefield for no reason except your own ego." "My ego?" Meghan's voice reached a new pitch. "You're the one who can't handle being called out for what you really are." "And what am I really?" Drew asked, stepping closer. "Please, tell everyone what I really am." Meghan looked directly into the camera, her expression cold and calculated. "You're a has-been child star who never grew up, desperately clinging to relevance by making other people's pain your content." The studio went dead silent. Even the crew members who had been trying to stay professional looked shocked. This wasn't just rude anymore. This was character assassination on live television. Drew stood perfectly still for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice was eerily calm. "Security, remove her from my studio. Now." But Meghan held up her hand. Again, backing away from the approaching security guards. "Don't touch me. I'm not some common criminal." "No," Drew agreed quietly. "Common criminals usually have better manners." The burn was so perfectly delivered that several audience members actually gasped. Drew Barrymore, America's sweetheart, had just delivered a devastating comeback, and everyone could feel the shift in the room. Meghan's face turned red with rage. You think you're clever? You think your little quips make you better than me? I think my behavior today makes me better than you, Drew replied simply. I try to be kind, and you chose to be cruel. That's the difference between us. Kind. Meghan laughed bitterly. You call ambushing your guests with personal questions kind. I call treating my guests with warmth and interest kind, Drew countered. Something you clearly wouldn't understand. I understand perfectly, Meghan snapped. I understand that you're jealous of anyone who's actually accomplished something meaningful with their life. The accusation was so outrageous that several audience members started booing again. Drew held up her hand to quiet them, her expression now completely composed. Meaningful? Drew asked quietly. Tell me, Meghan, what's meaningful about coming on someone's show just to tear them down? I'm exposing the truth about your exploitative format, Meghan declared, as if she was doing some kind of public service. The only thing you're exposing is your own character, Drew replied. And it's not a pretty sight. Meghan's eyes flashed dangerously. How dare you judge my character when you don't know anything about my life? I know what I've seen today, Drew said firmly. I know that I invited you here with respect and enthusiasm, and you repaid that by being nasty and cruel. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. You don't know what it's like to be constantly attacked by the media, Meghan said, her voice taking on a self-pitying tone. You don't know what it's like to have every word you say twisted and used against you. Actually, I do, Drew said quietly. I've been in this business since I was 7 years old. I've been through addiction, divorce, family drama, all of it in the public eye. The difference is, I didn't let it make me bitter. The comparison clearly hit a nerve. Meghan's composure cracked completely. Don't you dare compare your little Hollywood problems to what I've been through. What you've been through. Drew's voice rose. You married into one of the most privileged families in the world, had a fairy tale wedding, and then complained when it wasn't perfect. Meanwhile, you're standing here attacking me for trying to connect with you as a human being. Privilege, Meghan shrieked. You have no idea what I sacrificed, what I gave up. I know what you're giving up right now, Drew said coldly. Your dignity, your reputation, and any chance of being welcome back on this show. The finality in Drew's voice seemed to register with Meghan for the first time. She looked around the studio, at the hostile audience, at the crew members who were staring at her with undisguised disgust, at the security guards waiting to escort her out. Fine, she said, trying to regain some composure. I don't need this. I don't need to be here begging for approval from people who don't matter. Then leave, Drew said simply. Just leave. Meghan gathered what was left of her dignity and started walking toward the exit, but she couldn't resist one final shot. You'll regret this, Drew. When the truth comes out about what really happened here today, you'll regret treating me this way. Drew watched her go, and when she spoke, her voice carried to every corner of the studio. The only truth is what everyone just witnessed. You came here as my guest, and you chose to be cruel. That's your truth, Meghan. Own it. Meghan stopped at the studio exit and turned back one last time. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Drew replied firmly. Security, please make sure she leaves the building. As Meghan was finally escorted out, the studio audience erupted in applause. Drew stood there for a moment, visibly shaken but victorious. She had maintained her dignity while standing up for herself and her show. When the applause died down, Drew looked directly into the camera, her famous warmth returning to her voice despite everything that had just happened. Well, she said with a shaky laugh, that wasn't exactly what we had planned for today's show. The audience laughed, grateful for the moment of levity after the intense confrontation they had just witnessed. I want to apologize to everyone who came here expecting a normal interview, Drew continued. I never want my show to be a place where people feel attacked or uncomfortable. But I also won't let anyone come into this space and be cruel to me or to you. The audience applauded again, this time with genuine affection for their host who had just shown them a side of herself they'd never seen before. I believe in kindness, Drew said, her voice getting stronger. I believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt. But I also believe in standing up for what's right. And what happened here today wasn't right. She paused, looking around at the faces in the audience, at her crew, at everyone who had just lived through this surreal experience with her. Tomorrow, we'll be back to our regular programming, she said with a smile. But today I hope we all learned something about the importance of treating each other with respect. The show ended with Drew waving to her audience, bruised but not broken by her encounter with entitled royalty. And as the credits rolled, everyone knew they had witnessed something that would be talked about for years to come. So what do you think? Was Drew right to kick Meghan off her show, or should she have tried harder to salvage the interview? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible celebrity stories that you won't believe until you hear them.